It's time for another Dice Tower review with Z. Garcia.
Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Evolution Climate. Evolution is a game in which you are going to be creating and evolving different species. You are going to be feeding those species. You are going to be protecting them from carnivores sometimes, or turning them into carnivores themselves, to ultimately have the most points at the end of the game and have your species survive, basically, as much as possible and eat as much as possible. The version you're looking at here, Evolution Climate, is the latest one, and this one is the base game Evolution with the climate expansion built into it. This is mainly what I'm going to be showing you in the overview, but there's also this little box here, which is the conversion kit, so you can just grab this if you happen to have Evolution already. I'll give you a quick look at that in the overview. So let me show you how this works, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you what I think of it, alright? So here's pretty much everything that comes in the Evolution Climate standalone version. Obviously the main new thing being down here, the Evolution board, and the piles of cards sitting here and here on it. But I think it'll just be easier for me to give you an overview of those rules folded into Evolution itself, so I'll just go ahead and do a brief overview of that. You are getting the board, those decks of cards, the playing cards over here, all of the tiles for different species, food, and the cubes for keeping track of the species size and population, and then still a ridiculous start player marker right here. So, at the beginning of the game, everybody is going to start with a one species at population 1 and body size 1, and you get some cards. You get a little bag as well to put your food tokens. I'll get rid of the other ones. And then you get 4 cards plus 1 for every species you have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the beginning. And then you are ready for that first round. So first thing is that. If you have no species at all, you get a new one, and then you get some cards. After that, you take a look at the cards, and you throw one in here for food. And everybody's going to do that. Let's say we're playing with 3 players. So we've all done that. You don't reveal those yet. After that, then you play cards on your turn. And what you do with those cards is up to you. There's a few different options, okay? I can discard a card and increase my population or increase my body size. So I could chuck that and have a population of 2, let's say. Or I could play a card face down above one of these, and that's a trait I am giving to that species. It's evolving and it's gaining some trait. Or I could discard a card and begin a whole new species over here, which comes in at 1/1. Those are mainly my options, alright? Each of these species can have up to 3 traits, by the way, so I could do this now, and that's okay. Once everybody has done this, then we are going to reveal all of these traits, which will, of course, affect how the animals behave, if they are a carnivore, how they protect themselves from carnivore species, how they eat, or forage more efficiently than the other species around the table, etc. Once this is all done, then we are going to reveal these cards and see how much food shows up and see if the weather changes, which is right here at the beginning. And before I do that, also at the beginning, we should have flipped over one of these cards and placed it wherever it says up here in the track. And then one from this side which says tropical, so it would go right there. Alright? So those cards are there, and if this ever reaches that spot, it will trigger that card. So now we reveal these, and we take a look at the numbers down here. 5, 4, and 1 is how much food we're adding. And then the climate little dots right here, it's either a little snowflake or a little sun to denote if it gets warmer or colder. Now what you do is you figure out of which one there are more of, and it moves 1 click that way. So in this case, there are more suns than there are snowflakes. There's no snowflakes, in fact. So it gets warmer. And the food total here was 10 plus 2 from here, from the climate. It's a favorable climate, so there is more food. That means you take 12 of these, and we're going to throw them in here. 3, 6, 9, 11, 12. All right, and then we are going to feed all of our species. And so, starting from whoever the star player is, they could eat one of these and put it above their species board like so, up to the population is what they can eat. And so let's say everybody goes around the table, they ate. Sometimes you'll have special powers that will let you eat more than one at the same time, or will let you feed one species and then feed a neighboring species, things like that. It'll come back to me, I will feed this one, for example, and so on until either everybody's fed or all the food is gone. There's also, of course, carnivores, and the way they work is they're going to feed on other species by attacking them as long as their body size is larger. And they are able to. As I said, there are cards that will cancel this sort of thing. So they would bring down the population of whatever species they're attacking, and they would eat themselves, equal to the body size of whatever they just hunted down and preyed upon, okay? So that's how that works as well. Once this is all done, and as I said, the food's all gone, people can no longer eat, then we will see if any of the populations starved off. So assuming this food is all gone, and these two only got one food apiece, this population did not eat, and so I would have to drop it down like that. And then we take the little tokens here and we put them in our bag, and we set up for the next round, where whatever food is there would stay. If one of these cards was triggered upon having this arrive on it, that would be replaced with another card from the deck. So let's say we hit that spot, you do whatever it says, and you flip over a new one and add it wherever it goes. If it comes in where the token is, obviously it does not trigger right away. It only triggers if the token is still there when we are dealing with the climate. And you start it all over again. The game is typically about 5 rounds or so, 5, 6 rounds. You are going to keep going until all the cards are gone, and then the game is over. That's pretty much it. And at that point, you get points for all the food you've consumed. You get points for all of the cards that are out here, and you get points for the population of critters you have among everything you have evolved. The main new thing, though, as I said, is the climate board. So let's take a closer look at that, all right? So here's the climate board, which signifies and takes care of a few different things, and all in very thematic ways, which I really like. So here is the main idea here. If it gets warmer, then the food production goes up unless it's scorching, at which point nothing can grow. And then if it gets colder, then it's just all bad. The food production really plummets if it's colder. Also, it's possible for species to die off because of the climate. And so when it's hotter, bigger species feel it first because they cannot, they're so massive that they have to deal with that first. And so a size 5 or 6 would lose one population at the tropical level, and then at the hot level, anything 3 or bigger would lose 2 population, scorching, lots of losses. And then if it's cold, then the smaller little creatures would freeze off first, and so at 1 or 2 size, you would, if it's cold here, you would lose 1 population, etc., all the way down to the extremes. At the extremes, it's all bad, okay? And then besides that, of course, you have these events that would change possibly what is happening on here. And again, you flip one over. Sometimes it affects how much food is produced. And so this card, for example, makes 8 food. If you hit that spot, great. It's a heat wave when it should be cool. But it also might cause a little population loss. Those are the really simple ones. Just sort of replace the spot at which it sits. Okay, but besides those, there are some that have a special event that happens, volcanic eruption or a glacial thaw. Or over here, we've got wildfire, a cold snap, even though it's supposed to be hot. Things like that. And so I really like these. The artwork is stunning, first of all, but they give you a little something else that's happening. Now, they don't happen very often. In most games, you will not trigger a lot of these, but you can kind of edge it this way or that depending on what animal you throw in here, not just for food, but now also for weather. And I like the implication of that. I like that everything is now not only considered for one thing, like this little burrowing card. It's not just for food if you throw it in here. There's also now 2 cold symbols there. So if you throw that in there, are you okay if it becomes colder? You have to consider that now. There's a little bit more to think about. I also wanted to give you a quick look at the Evolution Climate Conversion Kit here. If you already own Evolution and you just want to get the expansion, then you can just buy this instead of the whole box. And it'll give you everything you'll need to bring your game up to speed. So you'll get your manuals here and your little guides. And you are going to get the board. And it's 3 pieces, of course. Double-sided, depending on the number of players. And here's your manual, and then the cards you need, as well as a little token to mark on the board. Now, in this, you will not get a replacement set of all the cards, but you'll get all the ones you need that have the symbols and the adjusted food values, so you can play with those. And, of course, you have all of these cards here for the climate events. So that's basically that. You can just, as I said, get this one and utilize your old copy of Evolution. Evolution's a really interesting card game. It's a card game that feels bigger than that. You know, it feels like there's more going on. It's got thematic tie-ins that are really interesting. And if you look at the game from a point of view of theme, I think it becomes a richer experience than just playing a card and not acknowledging what that card sort of represents in the game. You know, in the theme of the game. Now, this game had an expansion already called Evolution Flight, which I thought was interesting, and I liked that expansion, but it did not take the game's theme forward. It did not push that boundary as much as Climate does for me, and I think that's why I like Evolution Climate so much more than the original expansion. As I said, I like that one, but this one really feels integral to the theme of the whole game, and it's added in seamlessly. I like that. It feels like it was always a part of the game. It just makes sense. You are now contending with not just other creatures and the availability of food, but the climate, the weather, and how that affects all those other things, like animals you have to contend with and food. And it just makes sense. It's like the third, point of the tripod there. Otherwise, the whole thing would topple over. And again, I know the game was good before, and I liked the game. I liked Flight, as I said. But now I don't want to go back. This one just makes sense to have Climate in the game. So I'm a big fan of it. I think I'm really glad that this came along. I think it's a very smart concept. It's cleanly implemented. It makes sense. But it's easily taught to someone that's played Climate and not that's played Evolution and not Climate yet. You can fold them into the rules for that very easily. And sometimes it'll be a bigger issue in a game than other times. Other times it's not a big part of the evolving play time, but sometimes it is, and I like that too. I like that sometimes it is not as big a deal as other times. It gives the game variability, So, big thumbs up from me for Climate. Again, if you don't have the original base game, you can get the big one here, or the conversion kit, which is going to give you in there in the rule book. It'll tell you remove these cards from the original, shuffle these other ones back in. So you're going to have to sort of, build up the set of playing cards that you need. This does not have an entire new set of playing cards. You'll still need some from the base game, okay? But same thing. You get the same thing, basically, the ability to play with Climate in both. So that's it for me. Definitely recommend Evolution Climate. If you have not played the game before at all, definitely jump into it now. And if you have and you liked it, then I give this one 2 thumbs up as far as the theme and what it adds to the whole play experience. Definitely go check it out.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.